for being here and listening. We're really, really grateful. And today it's not only about Morecambe. We could actually be having this same conversation today across the water in Barrow and Furness. We could be having this same conversation in Scarborough or in Hastings. The issues that we're facing around poverty are incredibly, incredibly complex. And they hit at every level, especially our health and well-being. You know, until 1791, people in England believed that all swans were white. That was until a black swan arrived on our shores, brought here from Australia. Sometimes we can be incredibly fixed in our opinions of how we see the world, until we're confronted with something which forces us to change our mind, forces us to change our opinion. And what we have to learn not to do is become so entrenched in our perspectives and our ideologies that when someone challenges what we think we know, we start throwing stones at them rather than deeply listening. Robert Peston recently gave a bit of a devastating analysis that we've become incredibly divided. So quickly we enter a blame game over poverty. It's your fault I'm poor. No, it's your fault you're poor. But all this does is create more polarity. It creates distance between us, and we become more entrenched in our perspectives and our own arguments about how right we are. But that way is failing us, and it's failing the 3 million children that live in poverty in this country. It's failing the hundreds of thousands of people who are now destitute. Trying to solve complex issues with overly simple questions is landing us in a bit of a mess. We want quick answers, we want to fix things, but we don't appreciate the unintended violence of our policies and the projects that we want to deliver. But we haven't first taken the time to listen, to really understand, and to learn together. And when we do, we begin to realise that not all swans are white, and we can no longer see the world as if they were. The theologian Samuel Wells speaks of poverty not about being primarily about deficit or lack, a concept that leads us to blame and heroism. Rather, he recognises that it's our dislocation, it's our separation from each other that is the root cause of our issues. And so here in Morecambe Bay, not only through the Poverty Truth Commission with the mantra that nothing about me without me is for, but across many facets of our life together, and in the NHS, where I have the privilege of being a GP a few miles down the road from here and the Director of Population Health for this bay, we are finding that it's in our togetherness, through our relationships, where we're creating the space to build trust and ask some really difficult questions. And in the process of doing that, we're finding that we can hold in one hand the reality of our pain and our despair, and in the other, as Barack Obama would say, the audacity of hope that things can change. And so there are things to which we are saying enough now. Enough now that some children in our communities cannot afford to eat, despite their parents being back in home. And we're so grateful for the youth and the community projects that open early every day to ensure that kids get fed on their way to school. We're so grateful for the schools that provide breakfast clubs. We're so grateful for the staff that stay late and the youth clubs that open again to ensure that kids have something to eat on their way home. But we're saying enough now to the adverse childhood experiences and traumas through which many children live that devastatingly shape their health and well-being for the rest of their lives. We've got to say enough now to the reality that children living in this bay, in this very community where we are here, across the water in Barrow, can expect to live 10 years less than children who live just 6 miles down the road. Enough of that. And enough of the reality that they're going to have to live a much worse quality of life along the way. And as we say enough to those human and environmental injustices, we discover that the answers are not found in our current opposing political or economic models. Rather, we're finding that together we can create new possibilities of how we can reimagine and build a future that works for every person and the planet. In actual fact, learning to live well together is really difficult. It takes humility. It takes a lot of forgiveness, actually. It takes a huge amount of kindness. And it means getting rid of hostility and replacing it with love. It means taking a good, hard, long look at ourselves before we point the finger of judgment at other people. And it means letting go of mechanistic systems thinking to try and fix things and embracing complex living systems instead. It means recognising the change starts with us. And so for me, that means dealing with my own ego. It means dealing with my own pain. It means dealing with my desire to run away from pain. It means dealing with my genealogy and my white male privilege and our colonial history. And it means that actually we discover that as we encounter the other, someone who's completely different to us, that's what changes us. That's what helps us to become more whole. That's what helps us to deal with ourselves and find that we encounter in the person so utterly different from ourselves and whose experiences are completely of another world, that we actually encounter the face of God. And so not only are we saying enough now for the things which must change but won't change with our current go-to solutions, we're also finding that together we can. Here in Morecambe Bay, through working as communities, we're finding many dozens of amazing initiatives emerging, like our food poverty projects, like our mental health cafes, like our community choirs, new partnerships forming across the voluntary, faith and public sectors working on issues like addiction and early intervention in neighbourhoods. We're finding that together we can break down walls of division and find kinder ways of building society. Together we can see different perspectives and change our opinions and views. Together we discover models of business based on mutuality and sustainability. Together we can help each other take more personal and corporate responsibility, but recognising that is far easier for some people than it is for others, and so in the process, together we build communities that are compassionate. Together, we can face up to the challenges that the NHS and social care faces in this area, with some really eye-watering savings to be made. Together we can ensure that every child has a great start in life, that the education system works for every child, and that we can face up to the realities of the mental health crisis in our young people. Together we can ensure that our elderly citizens are respected and cared for. Together we can live in streets that are clean and safe, in which every person has a warm, dry home to sleep. Together we can face up to the environmental disasters which are coming our way if we do not radically change the way that we're living today. Together we can build a social movement for change with a very different kind of passion, and discover a politics and an economics that works for us all, based on self-giving, others empowering love, empathy and kindness. So as we are here together today, through policy and through partnership, we can ensure that no child goes hungry and that every life matters. So I am really looking forward to listening and learning together again today through the conversations that we have. Thank you so much for being here.